Hey everybody, this is Freedom is the Right welcoming you back for another video review, and today we're going to be taking a look at War for Cybertron Kingdom Leader Class Ultra Magnus. Now this is probably the most frustrating figure to be released in this line so far. He's such a mixed bag. There's really great things about the robot mode, really bad things about his vehicle mode, and it just makes for overall a really frustrating release. I think the ball was dropped a little bit with this figure. I think it should have been handled a little differently, but we will go into more detail on all of that, of course, as we go along. So without further ado, let's get into this. So here we have Ultra Magnus in his not so great vehicle mode, and from this angle he doesn't look all that bad. Coming in here we can see he has some nice silver paint here for the front grille. And the front of this is sculpted really nice. This looks really cool, I think. Nice Autobot symbol here. The lights are picked out with some silver around the rims. The wheels are done fairly nicely. They're painted with a dark metallic color. But unfortunately, as you can see, the hands just sort of hang out here. And it's really ugly, really unsightly. I do kind of rotate the hands inward a little bit to sort of hide them a little bit better, but honestly it should have been engineered to flip in. But Hasbro was lazy and decided to reuse the Siege mold and just kind of retool it a little bit. And unfortunately the gimmick for that with the albino prime that arms up to become Ultra Magnus, that worked really well for the Siege version. It did not unfortunately carry over well for this version. And as you can see, so with the Siege version, this whole section sat up further. It clipped in up here instead of back here. This was up here further. And so that did a good job of concealing this section. But in order to give a more realistic Earth mode look, they set this back a little further to look more like a trailer, but it exposes all of this. And that just doesn't really work out very well. Coming along to the side, this part is done fairly nicely. It's sculpted, and there is a nice little homage to the G1 toy in that this area is sculpted and this area is sculpted to sort of give the appearance of what the trailer looked like if all this in the center was gone, and that's very G1 accurate. And of course you can kind of see the head hanging out just like on the Siege version, which isn't the best. It's a little unsightly. The rockets are molded really nicely. These look very G1 accurate, and I do love the paintwork on that as well. Coming to the underside, you can see another thing that I don't really enjoy about this, and a reason that I wish they had just done a completely new mold for this guy, is the bottom still doesn't have like a floor, so they weren't able to like allow for any of the vehicles to store, and I really wish that Earth Mode Magnus could have carried more vehicles. He can of course carry some on this top section, not very securely, but you can do it if you'd like. And as far as rolling, he rolls on these back wheels fairly nicely, but these just kind of slide along the ground. So not bad for movement. Coming here to the back, you can see his feet hanging out here. They did mold in little sections where Autobot symbols could go, but they didn't put an Autobot symbol there, which is a little disappointing. So yeah, overall this vehicle mode just, it had potential to be good, but they just didn't execute very well. And like I said, I really feel they should have abandoned the gimmick of the albino prime turning into Magnus and just focused on making a good cab and trailer that converted into Ultra Magnus. But it is what it is. It's not the end of the world. He does have a weapon, of course. Can bring in this piece, and it's cast in a nice kind of gunmetal gray. Really good sculpt work. It's the same gun we got with the Siege Magnus. And of course you can store it. There's a couple points. You can store it up here in this port, like that. Or you can also store it in the back on that port, like that. And so that does pretty much cover it for the vehicle mode. And we can go ahead and start to get into his transformation. So to start out, what we can do is we can go ahead and just detach his trailer. So we can unclip this piece here, and it unclips on both sides. And we can go ahead and take that off, and we can pull this piece out. And we'll go ahead and set his trailer off to the side for now and just take a look at his cab. And yeah, by itself the cab looks messy, especially from this back angle here, of course. But we can go ahead and transform this up into his Albino Prime, which of course is a reference to the G1 toy, which was just a white Optimus Prime that had armor. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we can go ahead and come back here, separate these, hinge them down, they're on nice ratchets, and we can go ahead and flip out his heel spurs. And there we have his legs all done. So next we're going to want to come here and flip out his arms. And we're not going to want to tab this in quite yet, you'll see in a minute why. And pull that out as well. And we can kind of hinge the arms up to help get some clearance. And we're going to rotate this entire assembly. And we are going to want to take this piece and slide it up on this assembly. And we're going to push it back until it clips into place. Now we're going to want to flip this piece forward a little bit, and then we can flip this out, revealing the head. Close that back up. Now we can clip these into place, push the crotch back up, rotate his hands around. And there we have the Albino Prime all transformed up into his robot mode. And he looks alright. Coming in on the face sculpt, you can see it's done pretty nicely. Some nice silver here, it's cast in white plastic, some blue for the mouth, red for the eyes. It does rotate, full 360, goes side to side, can look down, can't look up too far. Rotation, 360 degrees, can hinge up and down. There is bicep swivel. You have a 90-degree bend there. As you saw, there's rotation at the wrist. The waist does rotate fairly freely. We have thigh rotation here. He can kick out on his ratchet joints about that far. He can only kick back about this far. It's hindered by this piece here. He can do almost the full splits, but not quite. He's able to do a little bit under 90 degrees of bend there. The knee, the toes don't go hinge forward and back, but they do have some slight ankle tiltage. He does have the nice Autobot symbol here. There's some nice sculpt work. Since you see the nice silver paint here again. Crotch plate done with some blue paint to accent it. So a lot of great sculpted detail, I will say, which looks really nice. And of course we can bring in his weapon, his gun here, and arm him up. So there he has his gun, and he's ready for battle. So that pretty much covers it for the core figure here. So now I am going to go ahead and bring back in the trailer parts. So now here for the trailer, we are just going to pretty much be disassembling this and getting it ready to attach to the core figure. So we can start by taking off these rocket pieces from both sides. We can hinge this up. And we can go ahead and come down here, untab these, set these to the side, and we can go ahead and take these pieces off. Just kind of give them a little wiggle, pull them out. There's a little peg here that they secure in on. Pull that off to the side. And now we can come to this whole section and it does connect right here and right here. And this connection is pretty secure, but we're going to want to just pull it apart like that. Same on this side, pull it apart. So we can go ahead and start with the legs. So what you're going to want to do is go ahead and fold this piece in. Then you're going to want to fold this assembly like that. Then we close it up, bring it around, and it will tab in here. And there's one of his leg pieces. Come around to the other side, we're doing the same thing. Fold this in here, fold like that, and bring it around, tab that in. There we have two legs all done. So now we can go ahead and come to the shoulder sections and pull these apart. I can angle these up for now. And then I like to go ahead and take the rocket launchers and plug these in right now. They just pour it in here on the sides. Like so, we can set those here. And now for the last part, we are going to go ahead and take this assembly and we're going to hinge this up. It fills out this section here, and we can hinge this like that. And there we have all of his pieces ready to go. So we can go ahead and bring back in the core figure. And the first thing we're going to want to do is flip in his heel spurs. And then we're going to want to come and disengage these sections, pull this down, and now we're going to pull this and flip the head back in, close that back up, tab these sections back in, and now we're going to want to go ahead and rotate this around to reveal his new crotch plate for the Magnus mode. And now we can go ahead and bring in his legs, and you can see that there are clips that are going to plug into the leg, so we just slide that over, push that on. Do the same with the other leg, slide it over, push it on. And there we have his legs done. So next we can go ahead and come in with the arm pieces. And we can just open this up. And these are going to peg in. There's a little peg here and a hole on the arm. And that's going to just slide over it and close up. We're going to repeat the same process on the other side with the other piece. Push that on, close that up, and now we can go ahead and take the shoulder cannons, and these are just going to slide over the top. And then coming around here to the back, there is a little notch here, and this is supposed to plug into this. Sometimes it's a little difficult to get it in there, but they're snapped in. Gonna take it and do the same piece here. And one thing I did actually forget to do was we do need to pull this whole assembly forward, and we're going to want to bring this down to make room for the part that's going to attach his head to his body, and clip that back. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and take this piece, and this along the back is going to clip into this. Like so. Then we're going to bring this down, and there are pegs right in here, and they're going to sit in those slots like so. And then again, there are pegs here that are going to plug in on the front. And there, of course, we have Ultra Magnus transformed completely up into his robot mode. And this is where the frustration lies for me. This looks really, really good. Honestly, this is very G1 accurate. I think it's really well done. The coloration looks great. The sculpt work looks really awesome. And it just feels really sad that the vehicle mode couldn't have been done better. And like I said, I think if they hadn't focused on the gimmick so much, they could have achieved a really solid looking alt mode as well as how good this robot mode looks. And coming in here, you can see the face is really nicely done. It's sculpted really well. There is nice silver paint for the face. He has his nice little kind of visor slash goggles going on. And this actually is light piped, as you can see back here, but it's really hard to get the light piping to work on this guy. You have to pretty much hold a flashlight up to the back to make the eyes light up, but it's not too bad, it's not too serious. Down here we have some nice red paint on the torso section, looks really great. This crotch plate is painted in white and blue, which looks really nice. The legs aren't quite as animation accurate. I do wish this would have been done a little bit differently from robot mode, but like from here up is really kind of perfect. The rocket launchers are really nicely sculpted. There's some really great sculpted detail on the stacks. They're painted white, which looks really great. And yeah, overall, he looks pretty good. He does have a bit of a backpack, but honestly, even the MP figure of this guy has a bit of a backpack. So honestly, it doesn't bother me all that much. Articulation-wise, it's pretty much the same. The head is on a ball joint. It does rotate a full 360. He can go side to side slightly, looks down a little bit, looks up a little bit. The rotation again, 360 rotation, hinges in and out. 90 degrees of bend, bicep swivel, hand rotation. One thing in this mode that is hindered is the waist rotation, which doesn't really work all that well. So yeah, you kind of have to, you can bring this piece up a little bit like that, and then that kind of allows for you to rotate the waist, but the way it sits normally, it hinders it. Also, you do still have the thigh rotation. Can hinge out that far still, only back that far. He can do the splits. And the bend of the knee is also hindered a bit due to all this hanging off. And that's another thing. I think that the articulation in this mode, especially on the legs, could have been a lot better if they had not done the gimmick, because all this piece that's supposed to turn into the trailer, I think, could have been cleaned up really nicely. It could have probably transformed and fit inside the leg if it wasn't trying to accommodate this other robot inside of it. So, yeah. So we can also bring in his weapon for this mode, obviously. And we can peg it in here. And have him all armed up once again and ready for battle. And you can pose him out pretty well. Like I said, the legs are just really hindered by all of this kibble hanging off the back. So yeah, that pretty much covers it for the robot mode. So now coming in comparison-wise, first I'm going to bring in Studio Series 86 Voyager class Hot Rod. Let's see how Hot Rod and Magnus look together. I think they scale pretty appropriately with each other. They look nice together. Next, I'm going to bring in War for Cybertron Siege Voyager class Springer. See how these guys scale with each other. Next up, I'm bringing in War for Cybertron Kingdom Cyclonus. See how these guys stack up. And next up, I will bring in War for Cybertron Kingdom Deluxe Class Huffer. See how that looks. He towers over Huffer, as he should. And last but not least, we are going to bring in War for Cybertron Leader Class Earthrise Optimus Prime, so you can see how these two look together. So that pretty much wraps it up for War for Cybertron Kingdom Leader Class Ultra Magnus. And like I said, this guy is really a mixed bag. Honestly, so much so that I kind of want to rate the robot mode and the vehicle mode separately, because robot mode is really kind of spot on to G1. It just looks really great. Great sculpt work, great paint, just a really awesome look overall. The vehicle mode is just not very good. So I almost want to grade them separately. I think if I was going to grade them separately, I would probably easily give the robot mode of Ultra Magnus, due to the fact that he does have somewhat limited posing ability because of the legs. I would give him an 8.5 out of 10. And the vehicle mode, I think I would have to give a 7. So now if I was going to average these guys together, I think probably overall the entire figure would get about a 7.5. So like I said, I am pretty disappointed that they didn't just give this guy a fresh mold. It was a little bit lazy on the part of Hasbro. And I do kind of hope that down the road, maybe in the Studio Series 86 line, we will get a whole new mold of him where they don't try to incorporate the gimmick of the Albino Prime. And hopefully we can get a solid robot and alternate mode. So let me know down below if you agree, if you don't, and until the next time, I will see you all later.